At least 112 people have been killed and hundreds injured in Gaza after Israeli forces opened fire as Palestinian civilians were waiting for food. This is according to the Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza. Israel's military and eyewitnesses, however, gave contradictory accounts of the events on the ground. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden says the aid side debts an urgency to ceasefire talks, but will also complicate the negotiations. We have more in this report.
Palestinian officials and eyewitnesses say more than 100 people were killed in northern Gaza, where Israeli troops opened fire, triggering panic as hungry Palestinian civilians were gathering around food aid trucks. Israel, however, offered an evolving account of the incident. In its first comments, the IDF said the incident began when Palestinians attempted to loot the trucks. They argued that during the incident, dozens of Gazans were injured as a result of pushing and trampling. An Israeli military spokesman later claimed in a briefing that there were two separate incidents involving aid trucks in Gaza. Reacting to this, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned the carnage at a food aid site in Gaza, where the Strip's health ministry says more than 100 people were killed.
The Secretary General is appalled by the tragic human toll of the conflict in Gaza, in which more than 30,000 people have now reportedly been killed and over 70,000 injured. Tragically, an unknown number of people lie under the rubble. The Secretary General condemns the incident today in northern Gaza, in which more than 100 people were reportedly killed or injured while seeking life-saving aid.
U.S. Presidents Joe Biden and Emir Sheikh Tamim of Qatar discussed the tragic and alarming incident where more than 100 people were killed in Gaza, according to the health ministry in the Strip. On the release of hostages, they agreed that Hamas should release the hostages it is holding without delay. The leaders underscored that the release of hostages would result in an immediate and sustained ceasefire in Gaza over a period of at least 6 weeks. The two leaders also talked about getting more humanitarian assistance into Gaza. Michigan Representative Rashida Tlaib and others also held a news conference in Washington, D.C. on the humanitarian crisis in Rafah, the safe zone where over 1.5 million displaced Palestinians are sheltering.
And calling for a temporary ceasefire is not enough. We all here are saying we need a permanent solution to this. So we know that there's nothing humanitarian about temporary ceasefire that feeds our children in Gaza before the bombing and killing resumes. So we need a lasting ceasefire. I know that 1.7 Palestinians, nearly 3/4 of Gaza's population, have been displaced. Famine and disease are rampant. I'm hearing about it every single day.
Meanwhile, Palestinian factions, some of whom have been at odds for almost 2 decades, are meeting in Moscow to discuss forming a new government just days after the Palestinian Authority government resigned. Reports say the objective of the 2-day talks is to unite the factions under the Palestinian Liberation Organization, a coalition of parties that signed a peace treaty with Israel in 1993, and form a new government in the Palestinian Authority.